Jeremy Michael Beck here again for another video on the Return series books. And today I'd like to talk about one of my current reads. What we have here is the essential guide to getting your book published, how to write it, sell it, and market it successfully. Now, I'm not going to go too much into the information into this book because I assume they want you to buy it, but I am finishing up a chapter now on social media, which is something they stated they didn't have to write about when they initially wrote the book, the first edition, 10 years ago, but it's very important now. That's why we have this page here. So what I'm going to be doing today, though, is talking about how I went about writing the book, because one of the things they did say was that before you start writing, a year before you start writing, you should start your social media campaign. And I've already finished the book, so. One of the things in the book it talks about, actually this is not in the book, this is in, I've found a great page, a great author, Jenna Moresi, who has a bunch of videos on YouTube about self-publishing and stuff like that, and talking about query letters, where you're querying an agent for trying to get, a big publishing company to publish your book. And so for me, one of the things it said was to describe your book as two other books, put together. So for me, I like to think of it as the 37th parallel, and Contact, the book, not the movie. And that's what I'm going for. About 6 or 7 years ago, I fell asleep after watching the episode Little Green Men of Star Trek Deep Space Nine. But I had a dream along the lines of the episode that night that I wrote as soon as I woke up, a short story. And then throughout work the next day, the rest of the story just kept coming to me. The short story now is the prologue to the first book in our series, Beyond the Break. But I recently found here my original outline for the book itself. So we're going to do a reading of that, and a lot of this has changed. This is the first outline that I had. White House, near future. Mr. President snaps to big day. Most leave, looks out window. From shadows, having second thoughts. Denies, thinks about the day ahead. Discuss the importance of, reasons for, and foresight. Left alone to think. Which is essentially the first chapter. And our second chapter here, giving a speech. Discussing with politicians before a speech, disgust with selfishness, nervous about performance, eye on him. Speech feeding on human tendencies, issues, humor, unifying certain world powers militarily and politically. Leaves speech up to a back alley car, taken to abandoned warehouse. World leaders meeting, discuss plan for need of all consent to activate arms anywhere, using system to attack Earth pre-invasion. Explains shape-shifting. There's a bit of a lore drop. Benefits, drawbacks, after a time in one form can no longer shift back. Now we have day of somewhere on a boat in an ocean. This actually continues on, I guess, to the third chapter. Waiting on other world leaders, fully prepared. News of coup, leak and information, told his wife, then told her plan. Mankind now knows. Rush to lower deck, transport to ship below to underwater base. Lost communications, have to figure out next move, discuss leaving, but decide they have to find the codes to activate the nukes, as always. But don't want to expose base. Radar picks up human vessels, ship pulls out of rock and leaves for Jupiter, fleet is waiting. There's been a change there. The book is a lot longer than I originally intended. Here we have another chapter, flagship, very short. Flagship, new plan, advanced fleet will infiltrate, take over the lives of humans all over the world, begin riots, start a war to weaken and then attack. Again, I wrote this about 6 to 7 years ago. Back in America, collecting missing activation codes. World nearly at war, getting activation codes to apply final move. Exposed in front of someone, weakened, blacks out, moving towards, then stopped by unknown defender. Told will be betrayed and forced to leave Earth, but will return to find something. That's foreshadowing for the next 2 books. Wakes up, finds a kind female companion, has taken care of him for 2 days, another man is present. Don't matter to me where you're from, you're my president, and nobody jumps my president. something along those lines, warns about the alien attack, and then brings them along. So now we have a team building up for the rest of the book. We've got the alien invasion. Trying to survive, dodging alien soldiers for a few hours, indiscriminately killing. Then a broadcast that Earth has been invaded, surrender, population has decreased significantly. Right here, not the plan. Turns out this is not the plan, as the book goes out. Receives message to return to fleet, take human prisoner. Argues, then flees when placed under arrest for treason. Loses male companion, gives life for them. Storm clouds, violent with thunder and lightning, headed their way. Looks like a bad one. I haven't seen a storm like that in years. That's no storm. And I think we all know what that is a reference to. Classic sci-fi. Clouds rapidly approach, then saucer sections descend, hiding in rubble, watching as survivors are treated poorly. Waits out the search party, escapes by nightfall. Originally, they went to China, they were in hiding, and rigging a device to bring down a Watchman vessel based on EM forces and fields, a little bit of science jargon there. Then they hijack a ship, and it just says talk time, because here was just going to be a lot of dialogue discussing the world building. And this is the original ending that has been changed, but on the flagship, sneaking to council chambers to discuss change in plan. After conversation, guards enter with girl imprisoned for execution in cell next to a crazy man who talks of time travel and a time machine created by another race buried in Aurora, Texas. Recalls an old UFO story, an old hobby used when making up stories throughout the years as president, about a radiation-related illness from a well, supposedly holding the remains of it sealed over, arguing in cell, and then they get out. And I don't have the ending there, but that was going to be the last chapter. Thank you so much for watching the video. Like and subscribe. We'll be doing more readings and more information and art drops throughout the months.